Brought to you by DK Audio.
DK Audio presents Ghostlore by Icy Sedgwick, read by Ayoola Smart. Introduction. As a researcher of ghosts, and indeed a former ghost hunter, people often ask me when I first saw a ghost. As it happens, I think I've only ever seen one, drifting across a distant room inside Mary King's Close in Edinburgh. But I've always had a staunch conviction that even if I couldn't see them, they were still there. After all, I can't see gravity, but I need only knock something off a table to recognise its effects. Ghosts have certainly had an effect on literature, art, cinema, theatre, and human experience itself for thousands of years. And I am entirely unsurprised at the ongoing fascination with them here in the digital age. Whenever we stumble across the social media page of a dearly departed friend, we may realise that we will each continue to haunt the internet after we leave the mortal plane, albeit as pixels rather than ectoplasm. So this, my friends, is a book of ghosts, spirits, and monsters. You may wonder what exactly is the difference between spirits, ghosts, fairies, and monsters. In some ways, it is merely a matter of terminology. For the last couple of centuries, people in the West have had a fascination with categorizing and labeling phenomena to better understand it. The problem with this is that many spirits blur the boundaries we're so intent on erecting. Poltergeists and brownies share a lot of common behaviour, and scholars still debate the link between fairies and the dead in folklore from the Celtic nations. To make matters easier, we'll consider these stories through the lens of the supernatural, defined by Merriam-Webster as being both of or relating to an order of existence beyond the visible, observable universe, and departing from what is usual or normal, especially so as to appear to transcend the laws of nature. Basically, things get weird. Some of the ghosts in this volume are the spirits of the dead, kept earthbound through a desire for justice, revenge, or even to help people, like La Panchada. Other ghosts are like the Onryo, twisted through the circumstances of their death into a terrifying spirit, or made monstrous through whatever happened to them in life. Yet others are more ancient spirits, haunting locations that are important to them, like forests or mountains, feared by humans for their fondness for mischief or mayhem. Some of these spirits may do you the favour of warning you of their approach, often with whistling or chittering sounds that stir the primal part of your brain into action, though this will be the only kindness such fierce spirits will grant you. While some represent a specific type of spirit, such as the Preta, others are examples of a ghost story found all over the world, like the phantom hitchhiker, or the wronged woman who appears to a family member in a dream after their death to make sure the truth of their demise is known. These story categories are globally common, often coloured by the context of their location or the time in which they're said to have happened, and the commonality of such stories suggests a deep fascination with them by the living. Some stories have passed along trade routes or crossed borders between neighbouring countries, which may explain the common trope of the long-haired female ghost in East Asia. And some stories may have influenced those that came after them, with the stories haunting each other, the ghost of one tale inspiring the ghost of another. It can be tempting to see the appearance of similar ghosts worldwide as a suggestion of a common human existence. On one hand, this is true. Humans everywhere feel joy, fear, disappointment, and pain. On the other hand, stories bear the fingerprints of the cultures that created them and may reveal perspectives on history that would otherwise be lost. In these cases, such ghost stories not only tell us about legends of bygone centuries, but also about the real human experiences that gave rise to them. Look at Aisha Kandisha, feared now as a terrifying spirit seductress of men, but once a brave freedom fighter determined to resist a colonial force. Many of these stories act as a cautionary tale, counseling those who hear them to avoid lonely places, to treat people kindly, or to show respect for the dead. While people follow such advice, they may indeed walk safely through dangerous territory. But if they deviate, well, the spirits can and will make an example of the unwary and foolhardy. Of course, in many places, such stories are no mere cautionary tales, designed to encourage safe or proper behavior. The stories encode information about how to survive the onslaught of a colonizing newcomer, which is far more easily transmitted through the medium of storytelling. Yet, when viewed from an animist perspective, one which sees a spirit in all things, a perspective that was common throughout human history and is still practiced within indigenous societies, these spirits and monsters are very real inhabitants of their chosen locations, albeit inhabitants to whom you may wish to give a wide berth. Still, while these stories tell us a lot about their home culture, they also tell us much about what it means to be human. After all, ghosts are a reminder that we too shall die, known as a memento mori, and death is the most fundamental and guaranteed thing that we have in common as humans. How shall we face that death? Bravely? Tentatively? Running, screaming in the opposite direction? So, come and sit with me by the campfire in our shared imagination as we retell these stories of vengeful ghosts, benevolent spirit helpers, and fearsome monsters lurking in the shadows. Just be careful not to peer too hard into the darkness beyond our camp, lest something decides to peer back at you. Chapter 1. Europe. Athenodorus. You doze in your chair, a warm breeze drifting in through the open window. You can't believe your luck. The rent for this place is so low. But what was that? You ease yourself out of both sleep and the chair, listening hard. There it is again, a clanking of metal on metal. Before you can leave the room, a pale figure appears in the doorway. He wears tattered clothes and shackles around his wrists and ankles. Is he beckoning to you? It seemed only right to start this volume with one of the earliest recorded ghost stories dating from ancient Greece. Pliny the Younger originally told the story about an encounter between the Greek Stoic philosopher Athenodorus Canonites and a ghost. Athenodorus rented a house in Athens, and within days of moving in, strange sounds of groaning and rattling echoed through its corridors at night. The sounds kept Athenodorus awake, yet when he investigated, he found nothing. He reasoned that if he saw nothing when the noises woke him up, then he might have better luck if he was already awake. He stayed up later than usual, working on his book of philosophy. At the time the noises usually woke him up, he again heard rattling chains, this time coming in his direction. He peered into the shadows and made out a spectral figure moving towards him. It gestured for Athenodorus to follow, although Athenodorus gestured for the figure to wait. The figure hung around in his study while Athenodorus finished his writing for the evening. After putting away his work, he held his lantern high and followed the figure out of the study. It led him through the darkened corridors of the house and out into the courtyard, drifted to a particular spot and then vanished in front of him. Athenodorus marked the spot where the ghost disappeared and retired to bed. For the first time since he'd moved in, he slept soundly, undisturbed by unearthly groans and rattling chains. The next morning, he went to see the local authorities to request permission to dig in the courtyard. They granted permission and returned to the house with him to help. You won't be surprised to learn they found human remains, with shackles tangled up with the skeleton, still fastened around the wrists. The authorities removed the shackles and the remains, and held a proper burial for the skeleton. Following the funeral, Athenodorus never experienced another disturbance in the house.
Sample complete. Ready to continue?